What is meditation? Well, many people think of meditation as a practice which is about thinking about nothing at all, but that's not true. We cannot block thought and emotion. In fact, we need thought and emotion. So instead, meditation is simply the act of diverting your attention inward. Okay, so inward, in order to become more aware of and familiarize yourself with the present moment. Why would this be important? It's important because today we live in an incredibly busy world where the pace of life is often frantic, and it seems that we are always doing something, to the point where most of us are overworked, overloaded, and overstimulated. And the sad fact is that we have become so distracted in the world in which we live that we miss out on the very things that are the most important to us. In fact, research shows that almost 50% of our life is lost in mindless thought, which directly contributes to unhappiness. And what's even crazier is that we assume that this is the way life is and that we just have to get on with it. Okay, so in essence, we have forgotten to be still, and the absence of stillness has led to increased stress and anxiety. Simple as that. In fact, around 75% of people admit that stress is affecting both their physical and mental health. 75%. But rather than distracting ourselves from stress, what we need most is to bring the very essence of who we are back into our lives. Stillness. So just as the body needs rest, so does your mind. Especially when you consider that we have about 60,000 thoughts each day, 80% of which are negative and 95% not original. So your mind becomes like a washing machine, literally, whizzing around lots of difficult, confusing emotions, which we often don't know how to deal with. So meditation enables you to slow down your mind enough to help you to return to that place of stillness that exists between your thoughts. A place which is available to all of us in the present moment. And every time you connect to this place of stillness within, you become more conscious and aware of what is real and what is not real in each and every moment. And in this way, meditation acts as a doorway to who you really are. And this is essential because knowing yourself affects everything you think, say, and do in life. I'm always going on about it. Knowing yourself is not only the key to both preventing and managing stress and anxiety, but it is also the secret to lasting peace and happiness throughout your life as well. So as you can see, meditation plays an essential role towards both preventing and coping with stress and anxiety in life. This means that you are much less likely to adopt negative lifestyle actions and behavioral responses to stress in your life, such as emotional eating. Meditation also inspires personal growth and brings us much peace and happiness in a way that nothing else can really, which positively affects our mental and physical health and well-being in a myriad of ways. Too many to mention here. So now, when it comes to meditation, there are three main types, and I just want to spend a moment now looking at these so that you understand the difference between them. The first one is what's known as focused attention or concentration techniques. For example, you've probably heard of Zen or Qigong or Vipassana. And it is where you focus on a single word, thought or object, excluding all others, okay? So it may be your breath, maybe a word, a mantra, an object such as a candle, a sound, a movement pattern, or an inner or external image. And the purpose is simply to better develop your sense of concentration, okay? That way, when thoughts or emotions do arise, you are able to direct your mind back to the original object of concentration. In this particular case, it would be a candle. So this type of meditation requires effort to sustain controlled attention on an object and is characterized by high frequency activity in the front and core of your brain. Now, the second type of meditation is what's known as open monitoring and includes mindfulness-based techniques in which all experiences are allowed to pass through your awareness, okay, without any manipulation or control, otherwise known as non-judgmental moment-to-moment awareness. And the mind is generally being trained to return to the present moment by using an object, your breath or your body as an anchor in this one. And this allows us to become aware of negative thought patterns, enabling us to make conscious choices rather than being mindlessly controlled by them, and preventing us from being led into habitual negative behaviors, which is what we don't want. And these techniques also help us to embrace whatever our current experience is, including emotional or physical pain, rather than trying to escape or get into a struggle and thereby amplify it. And this type of meditation is characterized by theta activity, primarily in the front of your brain. The third type of meditation is what's known as automatic self-transcending meditation, or AST, and this involves neither concentration nor training the mind as such. More so, automatic means innocence is the key here. Okay, so evaluation, control, or manipulation, can leave you caught up in thinking and prevent transcending itself. So AST includes transcendental meditation and the occasional expert in other techniques. It describes any technique which transcends, goes beyond the steps of the meditation practice itself. Okay, so typically this includes resting your attention on a mellow, meaning-free 1 or 2 syllable mantra or sound in an effortless way that allows the mantra to gradually melt like a cough drop, leaving a state of inner silence. So here I've got the word Om. So whilst this may seem much like a focused attention practice, the method is actually more subtle and easygoing than that. Alpha brainwaves, which are a characteristic of reduced mental activity and relaxation, permeate the whole brain, which receives more oxygen here. An increased blood flow occurs at the front of the brain, which is coordinating the activity, while the core is more quiet. And that indicates alertness in the midst of deep rest and the state of transcendental or pure consciousness, in other words, silence. Okay, so now that you know why meditation is so important, let's now talk about how best to go about doing so. So we spoke about the 3 main types of meditation. So which type is best for you? Well, that depends upon what you want to achieve, and more importantly, how aware you actually are to begin with. As a recommendation, if you are a beginner to meditation, then I would suggest that you start with some basic concentration and mindfulness-based techniques. Then, once you have been meditating for some time and made some progress in becoming more mindful, then I would encourage you to try some transcendental meditation. Regardless of what type of meditation you choose, I would encourage you to complement your practice with yoga. And this is important because many of the emotional and behavioral responses we experience occur because of previous stress, which has become trapped inside of our body cells as distorted memories. And so no matter how much we meditate, we can only often get so far. However, by including the regular practice of yoga, both physical postures known as asanas and breathing techniques, pranayama, we can better respond to actual demands being placed upon us in the present moment, rather than being forced into reactions which are often prefabricated by our stress. In other words, full present moment-to-moment awareness is actually the gift of a stress-free nervous system, not just a present mind. Just something to keep into consideration. So, how do we meditate? As suggested above, there are several types of meditation practice. However, one of the most simple and best places to start is to simply become aware of your breath, which is really a mindfulness meditation practice technique, okay? So here's how you do a simple one, okay? So first thing, you want to sit right. If you're sitting up a chair, feet planted on the ground, otherwise you can sit with your legs crossed, whatever's comfortable for you. If you want to keep nice and straight, unstrained in any way. Now, like I said, you can have your legs crossed, feet anchored to the floor. Place your hands on your lap, wherever you're comfortable. I like to have my palms facing up in a position. You can do whatever is comfortable for you, but this does allow the energy to flow. You can close your eyes or not, however you feel most at ease. But if you're beginning with meditation, I would suggest that you close your eyes. Otherwise, you can keep your eyes opened. Now, just focus your attention on the feeling of your breath coming in and going out. Observe your breath as it goes in and through your nostrils. Don't try to change your breath in any way. Just observe it. As you do this, you'll find that it begins to slow down. And just see if you can feel one breath without concern for it has already gone by, without leaning forward for the very next breath, just this one. Now just tell yourself, let my mind become one with my breath. And continue to focus on one breath at a time. And do this for a little bit longer, or even a few minutes. As you do this, you may have images, sounds, or emotions which arise as your mind begins to wander all over the place. What am I going to cook for dinner? Did I pay the bills? Etc., etc. And that is absolutely fine. Just try to stay connected to that feeling of the breath as much as you can by just letting go of any thoughts. Let them flow on by. And if something comes along that is really strong and pulls you away from your breath, you might get lost in thought or even fall asleep. Then don't worry about it. Just let it go. The most important moment in the whole process is the next moment, after you have been distracted. This is the place that we practice letting go. It's often referred to as exercising the letting go muscle. We practice letting go gently of whatever it is that has taken us away. And we bring our attention back to the breath to begin again. The whole training is letting go and beginning again. You don't have to feel like you have failed or done something wrong. It's a conditioned habit of our attention to get distracted. So each time we discover that we have this amazing opportunity to let go and to start over, it's just one breath. That's all it is. And once you've done this for a few minutes, or when you feel ready, you can Open your eyes or lift your gaze. Once you get good at being aware of one breath, then begin to notice 2 breaths, then 3 breaths, then 4 breaths. And you can do this. If you can do this, then you can meditate, everywhere, anytime. I often get asked, how long and how often should I meditate? And there are no fast rules on how often you should meditate. However, 5 to 15 minutes per day is a good starting point. Then you can build up from there. Even if you do it, once, twice a week to begin with. On top of having a structured practice, I would also suggest that you practice mindfulness as part of your everyday life, including things like mindful walking and mindful eating. Okay, so just remember that each time you meditate, you become more and more connected to the present and to who you really are, which is really the ultimate goal of all meditation itself. If and when this occurs, peace, clarity, and stillness become your natural state of being, meaning that there is no longer any reason to meditate unless you want to, of course. Whilst bringing meditation into our daily life is not always easy to begin with, the rewards that follow far outweigh the sacrifice. By simply taking a few minutes out of your day to familiarize yourself with the present moment, you'll become so much more in tune with who you are, and with it experience a greater sense of clarity, peace, and well-being in your life. I absolutely 100% guarantee it. So on average, how often do you engage in any form of meditation or mindfulness practice?
Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to learn more about the other essential attributes of staying in your best shape. And until next time, watch what you chew, do what you need to do, and always live true.